if you have anything around that's long and flat and scrunch upable, that will be useful. So take your time getting whatever you need, whatever you like to practice with, and then come onto your mat, and we're going to start standing today. And I can't pretend to know how any of you are feeling, but I do know the way I have been feeling lately, because this is an election year, and hey ho, we are in November and we just have a few days left. I'm having a lot of feelings. And one thing that I keep coming back to is this idea that is stated very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, which is you are entitled to your actions, but not to the fruit of your actions. And it just basically means that we can work towards what we would like, we can do, we can act, and we can do it skillfully, and we can do our best. And sometimes things work out the way that we want them to, and sometimes they don't. And we keep working anyway. So, regardless of whatever happens now, we've all done what we've done. And hopefully, we can move into a place right now of hope, because there's a lot to be hopeful for. We may have our first female president, which is thrilling, and acceptance, which in yoga, I mentioned the first two limbs of yoga in the email that I sent out. And one of the concepts in there is santosha, which is the idea of acceptance, of knowing that we can be okay where we are, how we are, in any particular situation, coming back to the present moment, coming back to our physical forms, coming back to the sense of who we are underneath these physical forms. And just sometimes taking a deep breath and feeling the ground under our feet can help with that. So today, I'm going to offer a lot of things, and you can pick and choose what you'd like to do, just based on how you're feeling. Sometimes moving a lot can be helpful. Sometimes stillness can be helpful, and sometimes a mix can be very helpful. So we're going to start now with our shake, bounce, wiggle, which you're all very familiar with. So you can be as vigorous with this as you like. You can be as gentle with this as you like. What does your body really need right now? And really just kind of notice that and act from that place. So if it feels good once you start jiggling, bouncing, and shaking, maybe you do a little more. Maybe you get a little more vigorous. And if it doesn't, if it feels like, ooh, I have to force this and it's not what my body wants right now, maybe you do something more gentle, more calm. You might even come into stillness. But think about these just movements as tools, basically. How do you want to use them? What does your body want right now? And you might consider your breath too. Maybe you'd like to take some really deep, deep breaths and just sigh them out. You could think of letting something go every time you exhale. You might even think of sending something out into the universe, inhaling hope and exhaling hope. You can take your time slowing that down, coming to stillness in whatever way feels appropriate to you. And when you're ready, you can find mountain pose. Take your time getting there. So ground your feet into the floor. Lift up tall through the rest of your body. Maybe you turn your palms forward. Maybe you close your eyes for just a moment. Notice your breath. Notice whatever remnants are left from all that shaking and jiggling, if you were shaking and jiggling, or whatever you were doing. And then if it feels okay, you can keep your eyes closed or you can open them. Press your palms together in front of you and step your feet out just a little wider. Maybe actively press your palms together and actively press your feet into the floor. Take a really deep breath through your nose and then blow it out through your mouth with a little vigor. And do that again. And one more time. Then let your arms go. Grab whatever you have that is a piece of fabric or your flexi band or whatever you have and lay it out in front of you on the ground so that you can place your right toes on top of it. And all that bouncing, jiggling, plus the sun coming in here, which, hey ho, I'm glad the sun's out, has made me a little warm. So once it's your band or whatever you're using is under your toes on your right foot, start scrunching your toes up to pull it towards you. So we're waking up our feet here, and it may be very hard. Maybe you may have to step off your mat in order to make this work. I may have to step off of my mat in order to make this work because my flexi band is really sticking to my mat. But basically, you're pulling your flexi band towards you, waking up your feet, waking up your toes. We're going to be doing some balance movements or have the opportunity to choose to do some balance movements. And this stimulating our feet may prove helpful. It's going to wake up that connection between our brains and our feet, which is an important connection when we're attempting to challenge our balance and prevent ourselves from falling over. And you might just notice whatever sensations are happening. Like, what are your feet feeling? And if you're doing this with some sticky stuff and it doesn't appear to be getting much closer to you as you pull, you might notice what's going on in your brain, what's going on in your mind, what kind of narrative is happening. Are you like, come on? Which is kind of a response that some of us tend towards when things don't necessarily go the way we would like them to go. But can you just accept maybe if that flexi band is all bunched up and it's not coming any closer, that you can continue to try this and it might come closer and it might not. So take just a few more seconds to work on that side. And when you're ready, you can pause. Maybe shake out that foot that's been working so hard. You might kind of step it out and then roll it around a little on the ground just to say, thanks for waking up. Maybe rub it into the mat a little bit, warming it up on the bottom. And when you're ready, switch to the other side. Lay that band back out or the fabric, whatever you're using. Maybe you have a t-shirt. And use your left foot to scrunch it in. In some ways, I think of this as being kind of analogous to social movements, the way that we work really hard within certain parameters to make change. And sometimes it doesn't seem like what we're doing is making a big enough difference. Sometimes we want it to just work now. But just like with what we're doing now, we're waking up that connection between our brain and our foot. There are lots of things that are actually happening, even when change doesn't seem like it's moving fast enough. Progress is still happening, sometimes where you can't see it. You might notice, is it a lot different on this side? Like maybe your left foot is particularly skilled at pulling objects towards it. Maybe it's not. You might also notice like what other parts of your body are attempting to help. Like my whole body is trying to do this. And, it's making me feel a little better, even if it's not changing things. Take just a little bit longer to work on that. And when you're ready, you can stop. And you can set whatever you're using aside. Maybe shake out your foot. Maybe rub it on your mat. Say thank you for all that hard work. And come back into a slightly wider than typical stance and start swinging your upper body towards one side and then the other. And bring your weight into the leg that you're swinging towards. You can keep your knees soft, and you can allow your arms to gently whack your body if that feels good. And you can go as quickly or as slowly as you like. You might again come back to your breath, just taking pretty deep breaths. And if you like that, really deep inhale through your nose and then just expelling it with a big whoosh through your mouth, you might try that a couple of times. Take your time slowing down, coming back to center. Find a mountain pose. Maybe take a little wider than, like instead of having your feet together, maybe take a slightly wider stance. Soften through your body. Drop your chin to your chest. And if it works for the rest of your spine to slowly roll down into a forward fold, go ahead and do that. And if rolling through your spine doesn't feel good, you can come down with a flat back, but make your way into a forward fold. And once you're in your forward fold, you can bend and straighten alternate knees if that feels good, maybe swaying a little bit from side to side. Come back to center and either roll yourself up or come up with a flat back. If you're dizzy at the top, as always, you can squeeze your hands together. And then take the next couple of moments to do that again at your own pace, changing things how you like, or just doing it exactly as you did it the first time. And can you breathe through all of this? So, not holding your breath, breathing as freely as possible, maybe even slowing your breath down a little bit intentionally. Take your time coming back to a standing position. If you want to take a long time doing that, you can do that. Once you are standing, find mountain again. Just take a little pause, like really noticing how you're feeling, really noticing how everything you've done so far has landed. Notice your breath. And when you're ready, you can have something on either side of you to place your hand at for balance, but lift one of your knees. And once that knee is up, flex your foot and then roll your ankle around a few times. And gently shake your ankle, point your toes, and think about stirring a pot underneath your knee. So you're just moving your lower leg around in a circle. And then pause and stir the pot in the other direction. And remember that stirring the pot can be a really good thing sometimes. And then you can pause and see what it's like to lift your knee out to the side, open your knee out to the side, rather. Maybe you wobble around. That's okay. Maybe flex your foot and then draw your leg back in and place it down. Maybe shake out that standing leg and say, thanks. Thanks for the stability. And we'll try that on the other side. So when you're ready, lift your other knee, flex that foot, and then rotate your ankle. And then maybe rotate it in the other direction. And point your toes, stir the pot. Stir the pot in the other direction. And then pause and open your leg out to the side. Maybe wobble around. Maybe flex your foot. And then bring your leg in, drop it down, seaweed things around, shake things out a little bit. Take some deep breaths, maybe sigh them out. When you're ready, come back to stillness, and we're going to try another balancing thing. So if you want to have your hand at the wall or on a piece of stable furniture, do that. Lift one leg up and imagine that you're taking a big step forward with that foot. So a really big step. So you're miming a step. You go forward, you bring it down. You don't touch the floor necessarily. Bring it back, up and around, and return to the side. So you can see really what I'm doing is just like miming a big step. And you can like notice if your other parts besides your leg are getting into it. So your back might be getting into it. And that's okay as long as it feels good, as long as it isn't hurting you or feeling like, I don't like that. Just think about moving forward, even though it seems like you're staying in one place. And you are, but the progress that you're making is that you're mobilizing all of these joints, warming up all these muscles, doing things that are really good for you and do have an effect, even though the effect that we expect from this movement is physical mobilization forward. And that's not what we're getting. And then when you're ready, you can drop that down, shake anything that needs shaking, and move on to the second side. And again, you might have your hand at the wall, you might be balancing, but really picture yourself moving forward with this, propelling yourself forward. Big, big steps. Make sure you're breathing. And if it feels a little silly, that might be a good thing. When you're ready, you can set that foot down and then shake, bounce, seaweed, move yourself around in whatever way feels maybe like a relief after all that kind of tension that's required for balancing and taking those, miming those steps forward. When you're ready, pause and come back to center. And I'm going to turn so you can basically see what I'm doing. But take a slightly wider stance, not a really wide stance, and not a feet right together stance. Ground down to your legs. Swing your arms forward, lift them up high, as high as feels okay to you. And then as you sit back into chair, slowly bring your arms back down. Maybe they come behind you to some degree. Move as slowly as you can. And then come back forward. So you're slow motion, standing up, reaching up out of chair into Urdhva Hastasana. And then slowly, slowly, slowly coming into chair, maybe throwing your arms back in slow motion, sitting as low as feels good to you, and repeating. Making sure that you're breathing deeply, using your breath as a gauge. Like, am I working at a pace that allows me to breathe freely? Might back off if I'm panting, feeling like, oh, I can't keep up with that. but also wanting to feel like you are working at a pace that feels comfortable. And notice where you're feeling this. So you might be feeling this in your quads. You might be feeling it in your glutes. You might be feeling it in your back. Lots of other places you might feel it. This is really a full body movement. The next time you're standing up with your arms up, you can pause there. Stretch up a little bit more through one set of fingertips. You might even kind of relax that knee on that side a little for a slightly deeper side stretch. And then reverse sides. Stretch up through the other fingertips. Maybe relax that same knee. And then do that again. And switch. And you can let this be a soft movement. You can let it be something that feels good. If you can find something that feels good within the movement. And when you're ready, come back to the center. Walk yourself over to one edge of your mat. And from here, I'm going to ask you to try something. And if balance becomes an issue, or if you just know that balance is going to be an issue with this, you can certainly stay in one place and like place your hand at a wall for it. But lift your inner leg. I'm going to call it your inner leg that's closest to the rest of your mat. Lift it up and over. Step out into a big stance and bend your knees once you get there. So you're in goddess. You might lift your arms and then step back and try it again. Big wide step. Maybe you circle your arms to get there. These are just options. And then step back. Do that one more time on this side. Maybe you pause in goddess just for a moment, noticing like this is a very strong movement. Takes a lot from your legs. There's a lot of stretch maybe happening. And then step back. And then try it on the other side. You might have to turn around. You might have to walk to the other edge of your mat. But when you're ready, take a big step out. Find goddess. When you're ready, step back. Try it again. Step back. Try it one more time. Maybe this time, settling in a little bit, noticing what you're feeling. And when you're ready, step back. And then if you want to shake anything out, go ahead and shake it out. If you want to seaweed around, you can seaweed around. Whatever movement feels like suitable right now for your particular body and mind, do that. Maybe some deep breaths. And take your time coming to the back of your mat. Toe heel your feet out so you have a little bit wider stance. And then take a big step forward with your right foot and come into a lunge. So, as big of a step as feels appropriate to you. Find your lunge. Maybe once you have your footing, you might lift your arms. You might bring them into cactus arms. You might bring them out into a T or lift them up tall. And you might even wave them around a little, making big circles or just big movements. And when you're ready, in as many steps as required, step backwards. It might be one big step, it might be a few smaller hops to get backwards, but come back to the back of your mat. And do that on the other side. When you're ready, step forward, find your lunge, find your footing, decide what you want to do with your arms. Maybe you want to take up a lot of space. Maybe you want to have your hands on your hips. What feels right? And can you breathe through all of this with some ease? When you're ready, make your way back to the back of your mat again. Find mountain. Take a really deep inhale through your nose and then let it all go through your mouth. And you're going to do that one more time on each side. So a really big step. Maybe step your feet out a little wider for a wider base. A really big step with your right foot, finding your lunge. Whatever feels appropriate. You might be in a super long lunge. You might be in a narrower lunge. Something that feels stable to you. Whatever arm movements feel right. Maybe leaving arms out of it feels right. Maybe you want to flex and just be like, rah, for a moment. Rah. Think about all of the times that you have taken action and you have had an effect on things. Congratulate yourself for that. Thank yourself for that. And then make your way to the front of your mat this time if you can. If you want to step back and that feels more stable and better, do that. But if you come to the front of your mat, walk yourself back. And take your time doing it on the other side. And again, you might step forward, you might step back. But if you step forward, scoot yourself back. And whenever you're standing with both feet on the same plane, pause, find mountain pose. Take a couple of really deep breaths. You can do that in whatever way feels appropriate. You can close your eyes if you like. And really notice how you're feeling. And then if your eyes are closed, you can open them and really Gently shake your hands. Step your feet out a little bit. Drop your chin to your chest. Roll your neck from side to side in a way that feels good. We're not looking for precise movements today. We're looking for something that can buoy us through, that can lift us up a little and support us right now. And then bring your head back up and turn your neck from side to side a couple of times, just gently. Make your way back to center. And if rolling your spine down into a forward fold to then come down onto the floor feels good, do that. If coming down to the floor in another way, down into a seated position feels good, do that. We're all going to meet up down on our mats. Awesome. Once you're down on your mat, make your way into a lying position on your back. You might pull your knees in towards your chest if that feels good. Maybe rock your knees from side to side a little bit. And then drop your left foot down. Bring your right ankle over your left knee and come into Suchirandrasana. So you'll be you'll be kind of pressing your right knee down towards the bottom of the mat, maybe then lifting your left leg up to any degree. You might interlace your hands behind your left hamstring or around the front of that shin or knee. You might find a little movement here, possibly rocking a little from side to side or just kind of scooching around a little, leaning here and there, noticing if you feel a stretch through your right outer hip. Let that go and try it on the other side. So right foot down, left ankle over right knee, finding your version of Suchirandrasana. Maybe bring your attention to your breath and notice that when you're folded up like this, sometimes if you are folded up like this, if you've chosen to lift your leg and pull it in, sometimes breathing like that becomes a little more labored. Just notice if that's the case for you. And if it is, can you notice that you can get enough oxygen? Notice that you are still breathing, even though it might feel a little more difficult. And again, the idea of santosha, acceptance, knowing that we are okay in the moment, even when the circumstances might feel like they're less than optimal. When you're ready, you can drop that down. Bring both feet to the floor, wiggle them out a little wider. drop your knees towards one side and pause there and just notice, like, what do you feel? Do you feel any kind of stretch or any kind of any sensation anywhere? And then when you're ready, you can move to the other side, taking a pause there, noticing what that feels like. And then try moving your windshield wipers as slowly or as quickly as you like, your own pace, making it useful to you. And you can continue with windshield wipers, or if you want to try something else, you might bring your feet together, knees bent, soles of your feet on the ground, and slowly drop one knee out to the side, then straighten that leg, and then bring it back to the starting position. And try to make it a lazy movement if you can, if that feels good to you. If it feels better to make it a strong movement, you can do that. Just repeating that a couple of times and then trying it on the other side, dropping your knee down, straightening your leg out, and then pulling it back into the starting position. And as you're doing this, if you're trying this, you might notice what it feels like to have your foot sliding along your mat if you're using a mat. That can be a particularly interesting sensation with all those um, little lumps on the mat and the stickiness of the mat. And you can keep doing that, maybe alternating legs or with both legs together. And if you're not using a mat, maybe you're using, like, maybe you're on top of a rug and that might feel funny or interesting. Can you take some really long, slow breaths as you're doing this? Maybe even bringing your exhales kind of out a little bit longer than your inhales. And when you're ready, you can just pause. We'll take a moment for Shavasana. You might start to deepen your breath. Maybe wiggle your fingers a little bit and your toes. And if you're ready to come out of Shavasana, you can take your time opening your eyes, maybe transitioning into a different position. If you want to stay in Shavasana, you could certainly do that too. Wherever you are, once you're settled, take a moment to bring some appreciation into your life. So thank yourself for anything. Maybe thank yourself for all the times you've taken any action, whether that action has brought about the results or not that you were hoping for. Again, that idea that we come back to from the Bhagavad Gita, where we are entitled to our actions, but not the fruits of our actions. So we keep working and hoping, and maybe we get the results that we want, and maybe we don't, but we can accept that santosha and keep working. And thank you for practicing with me today.